Hello, and I would like to welcome everyone to the Hive 2.0 this evening. Thank you all for coming out, and welcome to our latest edition of BizChat, where we are in partnership this evening with the Washington, D.C. Economic Partnership, and always happy to be here with my good friend Lee Perrine. Yes, yay. Lee and I go way back, so it's always good to work with old friends. Welcome to the Hive. The Hive is Anacastia's and actually east of the river. This is the only co-working space located east of the Anacostia River. We have been in business since 2009. Here in historic Anacostia. We started out on a small storefront over on MLK, and then moved into this space in 2013. We have 3 different levels of membership here at the Hive. Our first level of membership, you get 24/7 access to the space, a mailing address, 4 hours of conference room time in this great room right here, absent the conference room table, which is kind of broken up in different places around the Hive. And, it just kind of gives people, who are starting out, maybe some of you might identify with that, a place to get started and a place to call home. And we would love to have you, if you so choose, to look for a space like this one. We also have a desk level of membership that would get you CBE certification. You could do CBE certification on a desk. Also 24/7 access to the space, mailing address, conference room time, and all that good stuff. And then we also have private offices, which we don't really have any available right now. So people tend to get them and stay in them for quite a while. So without any further ado, if anybody has any questions about the Hive 2.0, you can always grab me after our presentation today. And yeah, Lee?
All right, thank you. How's everyone doing? So I'm Lee Perrine. I'm the manager of small business and entrepreneurship with the Washington, D.C. Economic Partnership. So hopefully you got my email reminding you to come to this event. Thank you for coming out tonight. On behalf of our team, we'd also like to thank you for supporting us and supporting this BizChat. At this time, we'd like to thank our sponsors, the Deputy Mayor's Office for Planning and Economic Development, and Capital One Bank. And of course, we'd also like to thank the Hive 2.0. This is the second year we've partnered with them, and so we're really excited to be able to bring this BizChat to you all tonight. Before we get started, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the Washington, D.C. Economic Partnership. So WCEP is a public-private partnership and nonprofit organization whose core purpose is to actively promote, position, and support economic development and business opportunities in D.C. So basically what that means is we promote D.C. as the best place to do business, and we're responsible for business attraction and retention. We do this through a variety of ways: business attraction, business development, providing economic development research data, and marketing Washington, D.C. Business attraction. So the International Council for Shopping Centers is this huge conference that's held in Las Vegas every year. 30,000 people travel to the city for this. And through our efforts at ICSC, we've been able to attract retailers to DC. So because of ICSC, we can say that's why we have Home Depot, Lowe's, Wegmans. So that's why we go out there every year. In addition to ICSC, another large activation for the partnership is South by Southwest. So we just got back from South by Southwest. We were down there this past March. What we do is we rent a restaurant, we take it over, and we just bring the best of DC to Austin for 3 days. So we really highlight our tech communities, our creative economy, and our social impact economy. So if you want to learn more about that, that's at WDChouse.com. We also do space finding and site location assistance. So for example, you're going to leave here inspired tonight, and you'll be like, I'm ready to open my retail operation, and I need 5,000 square feet in Northeast. You would contact us, and then we would tell you all the spaces that are available. Business development. So my baby, one of the projects I work on, is the Doing Business Guide. So it's a step-by-step guide on how to start and operate your business here in DC. So there's copies in the back and also out front. I don't want to take anything home, so please take a copy with you at the end of the night. And I also have my business card out there. Research and data. So we are, in addition to the Doing Business Guide, we're really well known for our publications. So the development report highlights all the upcoming development projects here in the district, so you really can get an idea and be on the pulse of what's happening in the city. The neighborhood profiles, we define DC as having 54 unique neighborhoods. So this gives you demographic information about each neighborhood, including walk scores, median income, all those type of things. So there's a few copies of that outside as well. And then the emerging corridors focuses on a handful of neighborhoods, including wards 5, 7, and 8, and all the activity happening in those areas. And so because of our work at the partnership, we can say that we've helped create 17,000 plus jobs, $94 million in annual sales, and then we've helped people lease 5.6 million square feet of new leases. So you can learn more about us at WCEP.com. I encourage you to go to our website, scroll down to the bottom, and sign up for our newsletter. We send out, occasional mailings. We're not going to spam you, so definitely sign up for it. So with that, I'm going to introduce our moderator for the night. I'm going to actually invite our panelists and moderator up, if you wouldn't mind coming up. Okay, awesome. All right, so I'm going to introduce our awesome moderator for the evening. Maddie Brown, MBA, helps organizations find their voice. She is the founder of Toma Wares, a creative storytelling agency that empowers organizations to tell their story in a way that educates, motivates, and activates the people who need to hear it the most. Whether it's verbal, visual, experiential, or digital, she helps organizations communicate their message to the public through marketing, media, branding, and communication in ways that support their overall goals. She is a career journalist with over 12 years of experience working for publications like the Washington Post. She is a strategist offering a unique understanding of how storytelling is relevant to all aspects of business. Maddie founded Toma Wares in 2012 and since has worked with over 70 clients. In addition to nonprofits and private businesses, she specializes in working with public sector agencies. Since going full-time with her business in 2017, she's worked with over 15 D.C. government agencies. Her clients include the D.C. Department of Energy and Environment, the D.C. Board of Elections, D.C. Public Schools, and the D.C. Commission on Arts and Humanities, to name a few. Less than 1 month after leaving her full-time job, Maddie was able to make her total annual salary plus 20%. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Maddie, and she'll take it from there. Thanks for being here.
We're going to start by introducing our panelists.
Hello, my name is Selena Gill. I'm a designer. I'm an educator and an attorney by training, but by passion, I'm a designer. But I'm here tonight on behalf of my youngest three sons' candle company, Fairburn Show Candle Company. They've been in business for about a year and a half. They started the business because they wanted more money for Nerf guns and PS4 games. And me being an entrepreneur myself, I said, no, get a job and start a business. And they started a business. So now me and my husband work for them full time.
Good evening. My name is Andre Byers. I'm the owner of New Era Ventures. It is a business that has multiple businesses underneath it. One is the business of my daughters who are in the audience. You heard Naya Byers, a Honey Bunny Boutique. So I wear multiple hats, of course. One of them is father. And so if you see me periodically just like giving a death stare, I've put that father hat on and I'm going to take it back off. But I also have Near. It is a local online delivery platform, and so I'm mostly here to talk about those two, but I also teach at Howard University, and that's right, you know. So yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nikki Peel. Some people know me as The Advocate. My company is called Respin Public Relations, and like you, it's like an umbrella of my other projects. I run a blog called Congress Heights on the Rise, and I do a lot of things, but basically I'm a busybody with a strong internet connection. So that's me. What inspired you to kind of get started with your business or your business idea? It kind of tells the story of how you got started with creating your idea.
Well, I told you about my sons and how they got started, but I've always been an entrepreneur. I think the last job I worked for someone was maybe 2004-ish, because I've always believed that everyone has a monetizable skill. Everyone has something that they can sell. And I also believe that I can't fire myself. So I have to work if I want to eat. But the biggest inspiration came, my mother passed away of breast cancer in 2006, and she was an accountant. And all her life, she wanted to be a social worker. But she became an accountant because she was a young wife with 3 kids, and she needed a job. So she started off as a cashier and moved up to be an accountant and never became a social worker. And when she was dying, actually, I was with her as she lay dying. And she had told me, I asked her, did she regret anything? She said, yes, I regret not actually becoming a social worker. And she said, if you do nothing else, please really do what you want to do with your life, because you're going to live, you're going to die. And she was 52 when she passed away. And I just took that to heart. Like, I was actually in law school. It was my second year of law school at that time. I continued with law school, but my second year of law school, I also went to FIT during the summer and became an image consultant. So I moved back to D.C., and I started getting clients. I just told people I'm an image consultant. Now, mind you, I had no experience, no no portfolio, no anything, but people believe you if you believe yourself. So I told people that's what I did. I had a bunch of clients, celebrities that did movies, all that good stuff. Then I moved on to designing my own things. Like I designed pens, T-shirts, cups. So think that I pass it on to my kids. They see that if they really want to do something, we support them. If they want to be welders, we're going to take you to welding school. If you want to be an athlete, we're going to get coaches for you. If you want to be an accountant, then we'll make sure that you know your accounting skills. But we believe that you can really control your own destiny. I mean, there are forces against you every day. But at some point, you have to really say, I have to live for me. And I tell my kids this, I'm not always going to agree with what you do, but you have to live for you.
So the reason I got started, I think I realized I've was born in, and trying to figure out constantly how to thrive in this capitalistic system. Right? There's no getting around that. And so then I realized in this capitalistic system, capital is what drives everything. All this time, I've been going to school. I've got more education than one would need, all preparing me to get a good job. And I realized it's not an incomist society. It's a capitalist society. All this time, I'm trying to figure out how to get a good job and have the highest and best income. And I realized the game is not centered on income. It's centered on capital. We're talking about rent. We're talking about dividends. We're talking about interest. We're talking about profit. All things that I can derive and pass down to the next generation. When the work of my hands cease, will continue to generate capital. That's what we're talking about in this capitalistic system. I'm looking around my neighborhood and I'm trying to figure out why are we living this way? I certainly didn't have a silver spoon in my mouth. Oh, but those who did realized they're not going to college and I've got more education than one needs, right? They're not going to college getting a ton of debt, then trying to figure out how they can beg someone for an opportunity to build up their enterprise, their assets that they pass on. And all we may get is a good plaque and a thank you. I don't want to live that way. That is not what I want for my children. That is not what I'm going to do with my time on this earth. So I then am trying to figure out, how do you amass enough capital so that you can then ensure that your children's children are okay. When I look at the spectrum of income earners, including capital in this country, those who are at the very top of earning, it's because they have assets, all right? Their money is making money. Their assets are not their hands. Their assets are making money. All this time I'm running around trying to figure out how to make the most money I can. How can I get the highest salary? Aye. So what got me started is, well, how can I then try to get my hands and my arms around as much asset, as much capital as I possibly can? And that's what I've been trying to do for the last 15 years, full-time last year. And that's what got me started.
I think for me, I would say that I started my first business. I like to say 6. I was 6 years old, but people think that I was like bragging, so I'll say 8, but I was actually 6, okay, because I was advanced, okay? And my first business was, you have friends and, do stuff in the neighborhood. What you usually had like a little allowance, it might be a couple of bucks or 50 cents or whatever. And one day I was at a store with my mother and I realized she was writing checks in the store. So I was like, those checks look kind of cool. So I went home and got some construction paper and some glitter, and I made checks, and I sold them to the neighborhood children. So they would give me their cash money, and then I would have checks. I would give them glitter checks, and then they were going around the neighborhood trading glitter checks. And my business went on for months until my mother found out about it and shut it down. You know what I'm saying? But I learned 3 things there. 1, with glitter, you can do anything. You know what I'm saying? 2, if you identify a need and fill it, you have a business. And 3, if you're passionate about anything, you can achieve it. And probably 4, that either I was going to be an entrepreneur or I was going to be a criminal. And you know what I'm saying? And I'm not about that life because I like to eat well. So I think that for me was the beginning of a long string of hustles. I live for the side hustle. First and foremost, everybody in here is the president of a company because you're the president and CEO of your life. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of times we're giving away stuff for free, or we're afraid to, I don't want to charge them because then they're going to think, like, what do you think if I charge them? They think that it's called, I make money, I live, I have rent, and I eat. Like, you know what I'm saying? So we're all hustlers. And just like you, like we were saying about when you said you were an image consultant, you just said it with confidence since that's how it was. That's true. Because I remember one of my business at one time, I was a personal shopper. And, you know, I had a business with my mother, and we would go to, like, you know, my mother was always hoarding things. And, you know, we would go to thrift stores and things, and we would find Burberry coats. And this was back in the day when eBay was popping, and we would, like, buy Burberry coats for $5 or $10, and then we would sell them for $200-$300. Like, you know what I'm saying? So what? So I had, like, made these cards, and it said, you know, I was a personal shopper, or I would say this is what, and as long as you said it with confidence and backed it up with what you were going to do, you were in business. So I tell everyone, like, if I could get everyone to redo what they said, I want you to stop saying, I'm trying to start a business that what? No, you have a business. Just say it confidently and effectively. There isn't someone that comes by with a wand and said, I now proclaim you have a business. You know what I'm saying? If you braid hair, you got a business. You watch kids, you got a business. You walk dogs, you got a business. You know what I'm saying? You find out how to make $1 out of 15 cents, you got a business. You know, so I would say for this, just like you guys were saying, I've had lots of jobs. But I haven't had a part-time or full-time. I think to do this, you have to be in overtime. So sometimes I had a 9 to 5, but I was usually on my computer also working some kind of side hustle at the same time, because there's no such thing as job security. Like people say, oh, I'm gonna have a safe job and get job security. To me, it's a cap. It's like you sat down, you guys agreed, okay, I'll work for $50K, which to me means in my mind, I will settle for $50K because you're spending the best time of your life for someone else. So I said, go out there and get the bag.
That's a great point you made about the side hustle and how important it is to transitioning into your full-time job, your full-time company. Even for myself, when I first started my agency, it started off as a side hustle. Even when I was working for the Post, I was, you know, Melvin would know this. We work together at the, yes. We will do our, you know, we'll go in and do our 8 hours, but we always were doing projects for other clients. So I would design, before I got into doing my agency full time, I would design logos and websites before it was really a thing, and doing branding and storytelling before it was a popular term. But, you know, I would go to work, do my 8 hours, come home, and still work on other projects. And so leading up to taking the leap, I was working 20-hour days. I would get up 6 o'clock in the morning, work 4 hours, go into work, do another 8, get off and do another 4. So that leads me to my next question. When we talk about taking a leap, there's pre-work that needs to happen before you're prepared to actually take the leap. What were the things that you had to do or put in place with your business before you decided to go full-time?
Pre-work research, Google is your friend. I Googled everything. And prior to Google, I just, you know, had to look it up like we used to, you know, and talk to people. Prior to Google, actually, I used to call people in industry. I was literally cold call them, like, you know, I'm really interested in what you do. Can I have a meeting? And they would say yes. I'd be surprised as I don't know what. They would say yes, and I would go in and meet them. So I got a lot of firsthand experiences of what the business I wanted to be and what industry I wanted to be in, how that would be. But I think in order to go full time, one, I had to have goals. I had to have a strategic plan. I'm not a planner at all. I'm the type of person, I got the idea, I want to do it, you know, let's get it done, but I don't do the little details. So I'm glad I have my husband for that. He does the little details. So really having a really solid plan. So when you do fail, or if you should fail, and it's really just a learning experience, you kind of look at your plan, you restructure, re-strategize, and figure out what you need to do. But I also think you need to have a team in terms of, and that doesn't mean that you need to have an accountant, you need to have a lawyer, but you need to have people behind you that support you and encourage you. We're not islands, we're not rocks, you know, we sink. We don't need to be alone. We need people, we need teamwork. So that could be your friends, it could be your family, it could be your Greek organization, it could be your church, it could be, you know, your coworker, it could be anyone, but at least have someone to support you, to bounce ideas off of, to ask for help. And I think particularly as a Black woman, it's hard to ask for help because it seems like in my family, I can't speak for anybody else, but in my family, we pulled ourselves up by the bootstraps. We didn't need help. We're strong. We got this. So I really had to learn how to ask for help. and to say, I don't know how to do this. And not just I don't know how to do that in the industry, but I need money for this. And I need resources for that. So really just learning how to ask for help without feeling shameful, without feeling like that I couldn't do it on my own. And then also really just learning about, the biggest thing for me also, budget. Learning about how much money I need, because what I tended to do was spend my own money. Once I learned more about business, I stopped spending my own money. I started going out to get money. And realizing there are things like grants and pitch contests and, and low interest or no interest loans. So I wasn't exhausting our family savings because I was doing that. And my husband was happily just, we were just saving money, spending and doing businesses. And they might fail, they might succeed. But we got to the point where we had 4 kids and we had to stop doing that. We had to think of the long term. So really like securing money without spending our own money.
Yeah, so just to echo that, money is critical. And so pre-launch for me, it was a matter of just stacking enough bread to sustain myself. And so I think for me, prior to launch, I always wanted to have a level of independence. And so I always had what I call my middle finger stash. And, when you are an employee, right, I too many times in my life, I've been asked to do things that I just wasn't comfortable with doing. You carry the horse's water. And you do it enough times, I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this. But when I'm so dependent on it, and I've got kids, and then I boss, I don't want to live like that. And so I got my middle finger stash. And so my middle finger stash is 6 months. Let me have enough socked away for 6 months to where I can, if I come in that day, as did happen on one occasion. You want me to do what? It's my 2 weeks, son. My 2 weeks, you can take that, I'm out. I don't have to deal with this, right? So I get to the point where I'm like, all right, I got the middle finger stash. Let's build that even more. So living beneath my means for an extended period of time, right? And so the babies, they don't know what I'm talking about, hopefully. They've been around their daddy long enough, they may. But so let's stack enough for a year. Let's stack enough a year, live beneath one's mean. That means catching a bus. That means not going out to eat. That means, oh, you wearing the same old gym shoes for 5 years? Oh, you wearing safety pins as cufflinks? Oh, you fixing your own toilets in the apartment building that you bought? Yeah. They know. I go right up in there. Tuck my tie in my shirt and get the, right? Because I am going to so I
always want daddy to play bows.
Yep, and so then I've gotta have enough time to play with the babies and play songs that they like, because that comes with it. And so pre-launch, I stack enough to where I'm like, okay, I can sustain a year, because it is going to be a very, very lean year, at least my experience. Some people are, they 6 months and they just, me, not so much, right? And so I've socked away enough. And then I just began to put pieces together. I don't spend any money until I absolutely have to. Know that DCRA, and it's great, to your point, it's great to say I've got a business and you're anxious to run and just get your business license and, I've done it. No, it's $500. And they're coming every year. And if you're not ready, they still are coming back one extra $500. And so you're going to just continue to incur costs when you're not ready. So I held off on spending everything until I was absolutely certain. All right, fine. All right. If I go another day, they're going to come in here and arrest me because what I'm doing is illegal. Fine. Here. Up until that point, I don't spend another dollar. And just begin to put the plan in place. And then it's just, for me, last bit, just start small. I started small. And just start. You can plan yourself to death. You can put a business plan on top of a business plan on top of one. And you will do that for decades. And as soon as you launch, it's all out the window anyway. Start small and do it. And launch. And launch. And launch. Because the customer is going to say, that's terrible. And you spend 3 years like, no, that's terrible. That's terrible. if I've spent a little bit of time and I've spent a little bit of money and you tell me it's terrible, fine, that's perfect. I'll go reiterate and come back and continue to do it again. And so that has been the process for me.
I think for me, if you can tell from my childhood story, that I might not always be the most politically correct hustle to tell you what it is. So the part I'll probably tell you is the part that no one will ever tell you. And this is just my personal experience. You have to be selfish to the point of almost being self-absorbed because you have to be focused. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't operate with distractions. That's just me. Now, to be fair, I don't have any kids. I also don't have a man. You know what I'm saying? But that's the sacrifices you make. You know, so I'm saying if this is going to be your thing, your business and your hustle, you got to breathe and sleep this. And distractions come in many forms. For me, you know, everyone knows me from I live in Congress Heights for, 10 years. I took a move and turned it into a business. And I'll be honest, I didn't start it. I think I started my business for like $9.99, whatever it took for me to register my domain name. But there was a few things that I do then, and looking back and in general with this hustle life, is that you cannot operate with distractions. And to me, that means you might not be able to be friends with everybody because sometimes people just don't know what this life is like. So they can't advise you. My mom used to say all the time, she's like, Nikki, I wish I could give you advice on this, but she's a stay-at-home mom. So she doesn't even know what this would be like. Sometimes your other friends will be fearful for you and, they will put doubt or fear in your mind. You have to be single-minded, determined in this. Like I moved from my spot because other things were distracting me from my focus of my game. And you know what I'm saying? So I sold my condo and I moved into an apartment. You know what I'm saying? So that way I'm in here hollering about the trash, literally, because I was the president of my association, hollering about the trash pickup. And one day I did the math. I said, I blew 22 hours hollering at Good Waste Management Company about them not picking up this trash. And I said, that's shenanigans. And the next week I focused and made 10 sacks. Like, you know what I'm saying? Just by being focused that week. And this is what it will take, you to be ridiculously focused. In terms of confidence, you have to be confident almost to the point, I feel like, of being obnoxious because you're going to run up against a whole lot of stuff that's going to make you feel like maybe I can't do this. I feel like, in my opinion, I beat out a lot of other people on doing stuff because they're too busy waiting for some magic sign to do something when I just do it. Like, you know what I'm saying? If there is a need, let me jump in there and get it. You're not going to get a hand-engraved invitation to your next opportunity. I'd rather fail on something. And sometimes some stuff I ordered too much product versus this or the third, but guess what? It got out there and it worked. You know what I'm saying? So I would say that. See the opportunities and get in them. In terms of practical stuff, I would say, like you said, if you can do it, but you can't always, go into your job every day like you're going to get clipped. You know what I'm saying? Like that, like every day like you're going to get clipped. So I would say if you could possibly get a 9-to-5, that it's somewhere in your wheelhouse of what you do, that you could take that platform and resources and maybe paper clips and, run your own business, do it. We're in the Hive. That's Jeff, who's my best friend. This was one of our projects. Like I lived in Ward 8. I'm sorry, I got like really dry mouth right now because I'm on new medication, not because I'm nervous or on drugs. I'm on a new medication. And I said, I'm a consultant going all the way across the river the other side to get office space. So I had this idea about doing a co-working space and I went and pitched it to Dwayne Gaudier, who was the president of this nonprofit. And he said, let's do it. And Jeff and I were working together. This is our second location. Think of that. And then the same thing with the checks, you got to pay off them credit cards, you know what I'm saying? Now, I live for a good weave, you know what I'm saying? But one day I had to say, I spent 15 G's on weaves. That's ridiculous. So I would say, do that, be a hustler.
I would say one thing that what we normally don't hear about when we hear about success stories, that we don't hear about the pre-work that was taken before someone actually accomplishes their goal. And so for myself, I would say the pre-work that I did, I knew that I wanted to work with government. And so even though a month after I left my job, I was able to achieve some level of success, but the reality is 3 years before that, I registered my business. I got all the certifications that I needed. I went to all of the networking events. I started to meet with contracting officers at all these different agencies and having conversations with them and saying, hey, I want to get into doing work with the government. What advice do you have for me? So I think that in addition addition to the mental preparedness of just being an entrepreneur, there are also some strategic things that you need to have in place. So when you do decide that you want to take the leap, you have all of those pieces in place to make it easier for you to go ahead and to take that step. So that leads me to my second question. How did you know it was the right time to take the leap? You all mentioned a little bit of it. I know for me, I had set many dates that this was the day, 6 months from now is going to happen. And then 6 months came and I didn't do it. And then 3 months came and I was like, this is the day. And I realized after, has anybody watched the movie? Is it Judy with the girl, the lady who created the Twist Mop? Did you see that? That movie changed my life. That was the movie that made me decide that I was going to quit my job. And it was the scene where she had, invested everything, invested her mortgage, and she lost her house. And she was a mother and she had 2 kids. But the passion that she had for her idea, she was willing to give up everything to do what she thought that, was her idea. And so for me, it was in that moment where I was like, okay, what am I willing to give up for what I said I want to do? And so for you all, what was that moment that was like, okay, this was the right time that I'm going to take the leap?
I'll answer from the perspective of the candle company, in terms of getting my husband to take the leap, because he's a career 9-to-5er. He does not like not having a job because that's just how he is. But getting him to take the leap, I think that we were ready when there was more demand for our product than supply. And once we saw that and we saw how quickly we could expand and the potential, we just said, we got to go for it. We got to go for it. It's too many things going in our favor, and I always say do it scared. I'm scared half to death half the time I do stuff, but I do it anyway. Because why not? The worst thing that can happen is, I fail or someone says no, and I just try something else. But it was just too many opportunities to pass up. And at that point, we really invested in the business, not just make sure we got all the business certifications, not just the business insurance, but, when you delve into buying UPC codes and paying thousands of dollars for UPC codes and going into retail and finding out the things you need, finding out federal requirements for certain things, and really just getting involved in the business of doing what we're doing so we can be experts on it. Because a lot of people are in business, but they're not experts on what they do. So everything that I do, definitely my oldest Colin does it with me. The 10-year-old, Ryan just has so much. If you met Ryan, you would know what I'm talking about. But he's so intuitive that I take him to. The 8-year-old, he just ate all over the place. But I try to train them up. So when it's time for me to let go of the business, because I told them, this is your business. I have my own thing going on. I'm helping you all, grow your business. But at some point, I'm giving it back to you. So I make sure that they don't have to take the leap because they've already taken it as children. But it also gives them extra resources to do what they want to do. Like Colin wants to be a professional football player and a commentator. He still wants a candle company, but he was like, Ma, I don't want to, be a candle maker all my life. I want to do other things. So, but this is going to be one way for you to earn money. And he knows and he gets that. Ryan wants to be an architect. Ace wants to be a dinosaur. But, but they're learning now about how to use their resources to get what they need. And we're actually planning beyond that, because now we're looking into investing in real estate. We're looking into investing into other businesses. We're looking into investing in people, because I always say that I don't want people to remember us for who we are, but actually what we did, the impact we left on other people. I told my husband, I said, when I die, I want the church to be full, like people overflowing, because I want to have that type of impact on other people's life. Like I talked to you, or you saw me, or we exchanged, impact on each other's lives. But I think that we just knew, for family-wise big break, when we just said it's just too much going on for us not to get out there and get it.
Yes, for me, when I knew it was time, I have been trying and wanting to be my own business owner for years, if not decades. And so it was just a matter of the when and the how, because I'll tell you, as many of you know, once you have kids, everything changes. My level of conservative is on a whole different level. And so I often tell my students, my Howard students, they're like, what should I do? And I'm like, go wild, be crazy, take risks. Why are you trying to figure out what's the safest place I can land? Do you not realize when you have kids, your whole calculation is different? Because then it's not just me eating ramen and being out on the curb if I fail. It's the two beautiful little girls back there. And so because of that, I'm like, okay, I want to, but I have real grown person responsibilities. So I'm continuing. I still got the middle finger stash, but I'm trying to put pieces in place because to me, I want to have security. But how do you have security in such a high risk enterprise? Real estate. So first I began to buy real estate because I'm so bullish on DC real estate. I try to get my hands on as much of it as possible. And so then I've got rental income coming in addition to, again, assets and capital. Regardless of what I'm doing, I've got assets that are generating revenue so that even if in one initiative fails, the babies are okay. We've got enough. We've got a roof over our head. I can die and they are fine, right? So I got the roof over their head. That's fine. Then there's the babies business. Okay, so let's get them up and running. Let's get it so now they're in Whole Foods and they are pushing and unable to keep up with demand. And I'm like, okay, so now we've got enough money to actually eat. Okay, so roof, got enough money to eat. I've got a year's reserve. Now, let's do it. I was running a nonprofit corporation. And I went in and it was in a tailspin. I got it to where it was functioning and operating in the black finally with projects in the pipeline. So I did what I set out to do. And for me, I was like, it's now or never. I am getting old. I tell my students, they're like, how old are you? I'm like, and when you get to my age, there's only two ages. Old and not old. And tear every time. So it's got to be now. It's got to be now. I burn the candle on both ends nonstop. I grind. My body can only sustain itself at this pace for so long. I'm like, it's now or never. And so once I realized I had enough, my safety net I was comfortable with the safety net.
I think this title of this is like taking the leap. And I think that action word leap is a big thing because I think everyone should be aware of what's going on around them. Like that book, what is it? I think it's called Who Moved My Cheese? Like you should always be aware of what's going on. And I always say these two things, either you're going to jump or you're going to get pushed. You know what I'm saying? Most times people don't want to jump because they're not careful with jumping. Like, I don't know if I want to do this, but one thing about jumping is you could either jump on some, something softer, or you could jump on some concrete, like, you know what I'm saying? Or you can get pushed. And sometimes the push is not bad either. So I would say this, I'm not going to tell anybody to go out there and quit their job, you know what I'm saying, and just hope it works out. Because this might not be the life for you. Like, you know what I'm saying, honestly. So for me, I've had different reinventions. This dude told me that last night at dinner. He was like, I'm going to learn from the queen of reinvention. Because I get bored with businesses and I'm like, I did this, I wanted this, I want to try something else. I would say this, if you are in the mindset that this is what you're going to do in the game, I almost feel like a 9-to-5 or a regular job won't work for you up to some point. It will not satisfy you. And for me, even though I had not applied for a job, the jobs I had for the past decade just came to me. Like, I didn't apply for any gigs. But it was the moment, especially at the last one, horrible things were going on, and that's a whole different story. But something that really was crushing me was that in order to survive through the day, I was going to have to be mediocre. And that was killing me. Like, it was the most basic of stuff. I said, I'm just going to turn a blind eye to this and sit in the corner. And I was like, this isn't going to work for me. You know what I'm saying? So I say, sometimes you quit. Sometimes you get laid off. Sometimes you get terminated. Sometimes you guys hit somebody upside the head with a pork chop. I'm not really saying do that, but sometimes these things happen and you got to take the opportunity and make that work for you. So I would challenge everyone here to do something. Some people respond well to a crisis and they need a crisis to get them kicked up into gear. Maybe that's when you took the layoff or the termination. You were like, yo, this rent is due in 8 days and I got to make this happen. Create a crisis in your head if you have to. I challenge everyone, pick a number and try to hit that number for you. You know what I'm saying? It might be something financial. It might be the type of contacts you do. But I say act as if you don't have any money. And say you had to make $500 or $100 this month. I think that will give you some kind of idea of what you will do when you have to do it. So I would say this for anyone who's sitting out there, being out here, this life is not going full time. I can't say it enough. It's overtime. It's when you got tired of going into the 9 to 5 or the 9 to 10. There's this audiobook that I downloaded that is called How to Get Yourself to Financial Freedom. It's an audiobook, and it said this thing in there that really struck with me. It said wage earning work is not going to get you to financial freedom because you're spending the best hours of the day, the best days of the week, the best years of your life working for someone else. If you work, whether you work for a nonprofit or a corporation, they are in the business of doing something. Their business is not you. They will clip you at some point. And so would you rather be on the streets trying to make this happen at 20 or 30 or 50? The scariest thing for me is the people that I see working at a gig, have no other skills, did not diversify their other options, their other income streams, and then one day at 60 or 70, they found themselves out on the block with nothing saved, not being able to be hired, and they don't know what they're going to do. So I say for everybody in here, if you're thinking about being an entrepreneur, you should have at least 3 streams of revenue coming in every day. That might be your 9 to 5. It may be selling merchandise. It may be doing a skill. But if you don't have multiple streams of income coming in, this might not be the life for you. But then I don't know what the other life is going to be.
So when I was in high school, I took an entrepreneurship class, and the rule of thumb was that you're ready to take the leap if you're bringing in on your side hustle at least 35% of your income. That sounds good, but I can say for myself, that wasn't even the case. It got to that point where it was so much where I just couldn't do anything else. It's it's either leap or go crazy. And after working 20-hour days for 2 years, it was okay, I have to make a decision. And so when I made the leap, I probably made only 7% of my annual income up until that point. And that was the most I made the last 12 years I was doing it. Because, you kind of doing your side hustle, but you ain't really serious about it. And then once I became serious about it, I was like, you know what? How much can I make if I really devote myself? But to Andre's point, I had, I don't F you money, but I had money saved up. So where it was okay, I'm going to take a risk for myself. And luckily it was just only me. So it wasn't anybody else I had to worry about. But I took the leap with only 7%, but I made 120% a month later. So part of that is having, that work ethic to where you're just going to grind it out and do whatever, that needs to be done. But the other part of it is just having faith that you have the ability to do it. So with that, let's say you already took the leap. What would you say was the most challenging part about scaling your business to what it is now?
Good question. The most challenging part. Scaling up for bigger production was the biggest challenge for us because we worked out of the house, and our basically our entire first level became a candle cap company. At first it started just in the dining room, then it moved to the sunroom, then it moved to the family room, and then living room, and now my office. So the entire first floor literally is the candle company. So the biggest thing really was figuring out how to scale up that we can still keep it within costs, but still be able to meet orders and continue to find opportunities. And a friend of mine told me, he was like, you don't want to work in your business all the time. You want to work for your business. So that meant that instead of just being producers, we had to actually out there and be the face of the brand. So like really learning how to balance that, how to balance production, and also how to balance, meeting new people, finding new opportunities, reaching out to people. And it's hard being a mom and being a wife and trying to run multiple companies. We've had conversations about it, and trying to manage all of that and keep a happy household and scale your business and do all these things. They're really just learning how to manage it where it works for our family, because it doesn't work for everyone the same way. But like our biggest thing now is really just scaling up, like finding a production facility, finding a co-packer, meeting federal requirements for all our labeling, a lot of different things, but also learning about those things. Like I was very fortunate that there was a candle company the boys love. It's called Southern Elegance, and the owner of the company, her name is Deshawn Russell, and we happened to see her. We used some fragrances from Candle Science. We happened to see her on Candle Science because they highlight like some of their favorite makers, and so to the boys, like she is their superstar, like a hero. And so I just DM'd her. I was like, look, hey, the kids got a candle company. They want to talk to you. They want to learn about how do we become a bigger candle company. And she responded. She said, I've been watching your boys. I know about your company. And she called us and talked to us for about maybe 2 hours. And then was like, call me anytime you want to. So that's been very helpful. So like, she's like our mentor, like our, de facto mentor in helping us scale the business. But like the biggest thing is like really just trying to grow and then finding those people to help us grow it.
So I also speak from the daughter's business. You got an answer? About scaling the business? Okay, so hold that. No, hold it. So hold it. No, we're only talking about scaling the business. So then you tell me what it's about, and then we'll incorporate it. All right? So scaling the business, that's fine, baby. So scaling the business, right? I mean, take that.
You do it all. You do it all, man. You do it really well.
So I haven't had to count down yet. When you see me counting down, then the looks have stopped working, and then I've resorted to the countdown. And countdown, the countdown, it gets real. The countdown, you've got a tone. It's just not counting. It's a tone with it, too. So issues with scaling for the babies and the business. I think the hardest part in scaling is just trying to figure out how to grow appropriately. There is the unable to meet the demand. There is the human resources aspect of it, finding the right people, because that is incredibly hard. Every person we've hired, they have then fired. So we that is a nut that we still haven't cracked. So we're still trying to figure that out. The other thing is just trying to make sure that you sustain your current operations at the same time trying to reach for larger opportunities. So for me, retail is hard. You all do an amazing job. Retail is incredibly hard. It's just, oh my God, fickle customers. I love this. That scent. No, I wanted it with no scent. No, but it is incredibly, incredibly hard. And so for the past year, I'm like, all right, so we can continue to do retail. So scaling, let's look at other brick and mortar locations, because where we currently are, to reach the audience that we need to reach, let's begin to look for second locations. Trying to do that. Okay, while we're trying to do that, liquid hand soap. I am so sick and tired of selling $5 bars and eating off of $5 bars. And imagine the volume we've got to sell. How many times you got to come into the boutique and buy a $5 bar? Let's get to government. And the babies, they make hand soap. All these, how many times do you wash your hands when you go into a government facility? What are you buying? I guarantee you it's trash. Why would you buy trash when the baby have all natural, amazing product, and you are supporting the DC business? You want to help the babies. Forget talking about, $10,000 grant and we're going to help with our marketing. That's amazing. I appreciate that. But if you really want to help the babies, put them in all these government buildings. We're talking about a completely different trajectory, right? So let's move forward with that. All the while, we're still looking for additional locations. All the while, we're still trying to make sure we stop running out of product on the shelves. People are like, oh, that's a good problem. No. I swear to you, I'm sad every single time. Someone, you got this? No. That's a good thing. No, it's not. I just lost that sale. Hey, we don't make that. We don't eat. What are you talking about? That's not a good thing. No, I've got to figure out how to increase capacity. And so for us, the scaling problem is just trying to continue with the current operations and do that and not lose the customers and not lose what you currently have, trying to reach for other opportunities.
For me, it was having to be okay with risking my brand in order to be more productive at what I was doing. So for the past 11 years, I created a brand, and my specialty was east of the river. If it was happening in Ward 7 or 8, it was me. That was my passion, and it still is. It started just me wanting to make things better, but I was able to morph it into a business. But this is how I was known. This is how I got on the covers of magazines and how I got articles and did all these other things. I'm the advocate of east of the river. And it was the moment where I realized, which I had known for a while, I had wanted to branch out and do other things to not only make my business more, to scale it up. It was also, I wanted to be more effective to the people I service, which was people who lived and worked east of the river. And also I had to deal with a little issue of guilt because, like you told me, you said I moved to Congress Heights from reading your blog or something like that, and I had that in my mind. And, and I was like, well, okay, I'm the president of my condo association again, and it is literally sucking the life out of me. You know what I'm saying? And I tried to put blinders on. If I see something's broken, it's something in me, I am compelled to fix it. Whether it was the park on the corner or some kind of thing, but it was distracting me. And so I had to say, I have to put myself in a box for a minute, a zone, so I can focus. And so I put the condo on the market, I sold it, you know what I'm saying? A reporter put the story out, and that was the moment to do that. And, and I explained it, but it worked out well for me. You know what I'm saying? But it wasn't just for me, it's the work I'm able to do. People have been asking me to put them Southeast Love shirts since I launched that 6-7 years ago. And I planned it all the time, but could never roll out that merchandise. Finally, I was trying to go to the other side of Southeast so that way I could talk about that. I ended up in Northeast, you know what I'm saying, producing Southeast Love shirts, you know what I'm saying? But it gave me this cone of silence to do that, to scale up my business, to get these things done. So I am a more effective advocate and business owner. So I think it's being willing to take those risks and also being able to be effective, you know what I'm saying? And it was okay to do that. No one hasn't thrown a rock at me and said, oh, you freaking sellout. It was yo, I can get what you're doing, because at the end of the day, when I was living over here and I was distracted, my work product suffered. I didn't update the blog for months. You know what I'm saying? I had to let some of my side clients say, yo, I just don't have the time right now. I'm too busy. You know what I'm saying? But now I'm able to be in the game all the way again. So I think it's doing that. I mean, luckily I'm in the service industry. Anybody who has a service business, where it requires your hours and your time and your work, you have to be militant about that. You know what I'm saying? And my thing is, I like to keep the overhead low and, you know what I'm saying, the hours focused. So you got to think about stuff like that. So that's mine.
Has anybody in here read the book, The E-Myth by Michael Gerber? I would recommend, if you're thinking about growing your business and scaling, that's a book that you should read. And basically, it talks about putting in the systems and processes at the very beginning when you're starting to build your business, so that you can grow and scale. Because without those things in place, you're always going to be working in the business, and you're never going to have the opportunity to work on the business. And the one final thing before we get to audience questions that I will recommend: a few years ago, I went to a conference, and Priceline CEO Jeff Hoffman, who's now a mentor of mine, I went up to him and asked him one question, and I said, what is one advice you would give someone starting their business? And the one answer he gave was, focus on building a team. And so the year right after I left my job at the Post, The first year I, spent getting projects but I used all the revenue that I had from all the projects that I was able to do and reinvested in the business to scale my team. Because I knew that in order for me to get capacity, I actually needed to have people to do the work. And so I spent all of last year going from a team of 1, going to a team of 4, going to a team of 40. So I would say that if you're looking to really grow your business, that you really focus on the infrastructure and starting to do the things in the very beginning to, even though it's a side hustle, not treating it like a side hustle, but actually treating it like a business. So unfortunately, we have a long list of questions, but we didn't really get to all of them. But we did want to open it up to audience questions to see if you have any questions for us. Anybody?
My question to all of you is, how did you go about doing that? Especially in the beginning when you don't have the money to pay people.
One thing that I've learned in being old is I've more easily identified my flaws. And one of them is networking and building relationships with people. And so the team is one thing that I have consistently struggled with. And I see how it impacts the capacity of all the businesses. I'll tell you what I've tried. Because I teach at Howard University, I'm always like, hey, well, there's got to be some young, bright minds around here who work for a little nothing. Get on over here, right? And so you'll realize that a lot of the brightest students, even former students who because I can then vet them. I'm only going to use the students that I know who are going to do well. And so I've employed that because me going to happy hours and hobnobbing with people, I'm not that good at it, and I'm just like, yeah, I don't want to sit here and talk to you. So it's a flaw of mine. But so I'll use students, and then I'll try to incorporate professors, and so then just trying to utilize people who you have a genuine relationship with. I am not one who builds false relationships, and so that has been the only thing that has consistently worked for me, because what everyone else is probably amazing at doing and what people would recommend that you do, I just don't do well.
Our team consists of me, myself, and I. No, I'm just playing. No, a lot of stuff I actually do in-house because it's just easier for me to do it. My husband is part of the team. Of course, the kids are part of the team. But things we hire out, like accounting. We have an attorney. We have someone at the insurance company that helps us with the insurance requirements, because sometimes the different festivals have different insurance requirements. But I've learned that we've had to have a team because, one, I can't do everything myself, and two, as you get older, you do know your shortcomings. Like accounting is a huge shortcoming of mine, not because I can't do it, I don't want to. So we have an accountant for that, and we have a virtual assistant. And I was kind of hesitant about giving the virtual assistant tasks, because I was like, she's gonna know too much of our business. She's gonna know what she's, and I made her sign an NDA and whatnot. But just kind of releasing control of that, allowing someone else to take over a process, I outlined it to her and trusting her with it. So that was a really big thing for me, like giving that trust to someone to be a part of the team. And we still need to grow. We definitely still need to grow. We need to hire people, and since we still work out of the home, that's really kind of dicey for us because we don't want anyone just coming into our home. So we are looking for a location to produce outside the home. But we know that in order to grow, the team has to grow because we need support to do these things. We need a dedicated sales rep, because I get tired of talking on the phone to these people. You know what I mean? It's like and you don't have time because people send so many requests all the time. I think, one, when you have a children's business, people are attracted to it because, one, is children, and two, it's a good product. So you have a lot of interest in your business, but it's like trying to field those requests, trying to vet those requests. That takes a lot of time. But it's growing. I mean, it's a process. Like you kind of can feel people out. Like, and you have, like, I had to develop a core questionnaire to see if our values matched. Because if our values matched, you can't be on my team. Oh, it didn't match, you can be on my team. Sorry.
That's a great question. I think about that. I wouldn't actually say that I have a team. I would say more that I have a network and like resources, because I like to stay flexible. And I think for me, that's allowed me to have the longevity that I've had. So like I use, graphic designer, the same graphic designer who helped me launch all this stuff 11 years ago. I put an ad on Craigslist. I said, I need Batman on a blank man budget. And you know what I'm saying? And he answered me. because I wanted somebody who was passionate about what they do. And he has been my go-to graphic designer over the past 10, 11 years. And I've bought him a good book of business. Like, you know what I'm saying? He was, had a regular gig, and first of all, freelance do not mean free. Like, I put that on my website. Like, that's, you know, that doesn't mean free. But he had that hustle spirit, and we just bonded. So I think I have an accountant who I would break up with somebody before I would lose my accountant, because I could find another man. This accountant has saved my life several times. You know, that type of stuff is important to me. But I'll be honest, I'm kind of toying with that now. Like, something I just put up was like, I do need to hand off control, and I have a hard time doing that as well, because I think no one knows it like you do, like you think you do. And then I don't want to manage somebody. I just want the job done. So like sometimes I'll get this all the time. Well, my cousin, like she's taking marketing in college and she want an internship. And I'm like, if we gonna stay friends, don't send her to me, because she will be crying in the corner. That guy in the back has worked with me, and he has seen so many adult people leave me crying in tears. So I said, please don't send me your young impressionable minds, because I'm not that person. You know, so I'm still trying to figure that out for myself. But that's why I think I'm also expanding and diversifying my different projects and income streams, so that way I like passive income coming in. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because it gives me more time to work on my passion projects or the stuff that takes more time to roll out. And then maybe then I can have somebody do some of this stuff that I'm not doing. But I think, like, if you braid hair, if you braid hair, you can have a full-fledged business, because you do, but I don't know if you need a team of 15 people. But when I was walking my dog today, I had a business idea involving braided hair, and I was like, snap. If I could clear some of this other stuff off my deck, I can, like, launch this other type of business. So it's a balancing act.
I would say one of the things that I learned, or the first thing you have to do is when you want to build a team, is that one, you have to learn how to trust. I actually had a fear of hiring my first person, like a genuine fear. And the way that I was able to do it is that I had an accountability partner. And what I loved about her is she encouraged me to do everything I was afraid of. And because she held me accountable, I did everything. And so the first thing that I did was we were like, okay, we're going to start small. We're going to start with an assistant. And we shared the assistant. Because my fear is I didn't have enough work to give somebody, employ somebody full time, and I didn't have the capital to be able to sustain that person's salary. And we were only paying her $10 an hour. So it was just $5 an hour for me and $5 an hour for her. It was perfect. And she only worked like 10 hours a week. So that was like no money. But it was the very first step in learning how to trust someone with, with your stuff, with your task. And the other part of that is, I would say, first you need to identify who's the first person you need on your team. What's the task that you hate doing the most, or is so time consuming that you just need somebody to deal with? And so because I knew I wanted to build an agency, I needed someone to help me with operations. How are we going to run it? Because, it started off as a side hustle, but I don't want it to be a side hustle. I want it to be a full-fledged agency. And so I needed someone to help me think through what are our processes, what are our systems, and help us figure that out. So the first person I actually hired was an operations manager. And how I found that person was through a client. It was one day, it was one of those 20-hour days, and I was stressed out, and I was just venting to my client, which is probably what you're not supposed to do. But it worked out because she's like, I think I know somebody for you. And she's been amazing. She's the reason why I was able to hire 40 other people. And so she built out our entire HR process. I didn't do any of that. But it was one, we had like minds, we had like visions, and she was skilled. So we tried interns, and I have used interns before, but on things that you really need done, you don't want to deal with interns. You want to deal with people who have the skill set, who can jump in, who can get going, and who you don't have to give a lot of direction. And so when you're looking for some of those people, you'll find for free because they believe in your passion, but I paid her. I didn't pay her. I didn't pay her what she was worth. She was worth like $50, $60 an hour. She got 20, but at least it was something. And we negotiated hours, and she was, she was flexible on the financial side, but she believed in the vision to where she helped me to scale. So all it takes is really finding out one person first, and that one person can help you grow to a larger team. Any other questions?
First of all, thank you. Is it on? Yeah. Okay. It didn't. It doesn't. Thank you so much for your time. This has been very insightful. So thank you. I want to know, you ended on balance, Nikki, and I want to know, just in dealing with the daily, operations of a business, your priorities with your family, with your maintaining relationships and friendships. You're basically beholden to your business. You're married to your spouses, but you're married to your businesses. It's a marriage. So how do you, I don't know if balance is the right word. I hate work-life balance. It's more like a work-life adjustment, because things happen, life happens, and you have to adjust to things, So how do you all, adjust to life, and how do you all manage your relationships with your spouses and your children and yourselves, and more importantly, we talk about we're in an era of self-care and wellness. How do you preserve your spirits? Thank you. Excuse me.
Excellent question.
No, I struggle with that.
Okay, you go.
That's a great question. First and foremost, I don't balance anything as well as I would want to. But I would say in terms of self-care, I see a therapist once a week, and I tell anybody that. And to be quite honest, I almost feel like you need it to be a business owner, or you need it even to work in an office. Because I want to say this for real, especially I think women of color, where we're dealing with a whole bunch of other stuff. And I think this is anyone. I have seen so many people make bad business or professional decisions because they're dragging in some kind of emotional hurt into a conversation. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like when I'm like, this can be better. Like, we could do this. I'm not trying to attack you or say you were a loser person or anything. You're dragging an emotional feeling into a business situation. So I pay someone to go cry 1 hour a week. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes she falls asleep if I'm having a pretty good week. But it's helpful, I make that my outlet. And I think I have to do that. Some people, it might be church, it might be something else. For me, it's that $10 copay works for me for that. In terms of the friendships and the family stuff, I'll be honest, I'm 42. I'm a woman of color. We already know that our work lifetime life is smaller, truncated than others. So I'm probably more focused the other way, because I'm thinking I only have X amount of time, because they are coming up younger, thinner, smarter, and faster. Like, you know what I'm saying? If I don't make this happen, whatever that thing is for me in this period of time, I might not ever be able to do it. And that means I have been a sucky daughter. I have been a sucky sister. I have been a sucky friend, but I did just take him to Martinique for 2 weeks, so I'm winning on some fronts. You know what I'm saying? And I've been a sucky girlfriend. But I do like to say that I do feel like when I look around and I walk around this neighborhood, I can point at stuff that I've accomplished in this neighborhood long after I've gone and done, to say that was me, this was me, and that gives me that, So I don't know if you're going to have that balance. Maybe somebody else is doing it better, but I've had to come to accept the fact that I might not have kids or I might not get married, but I don't want to be that person at the other side who said, damn, I wasted all my time.
Yeah, my answer is going to be short, because I was trying to think of what could I provide that is beneficial. So I go to the gym every morning. That is my release. Meal prepping changed my life. Your diet. I would then have courses, all healthy stuff prepared for the whole week. Changed my life. It went from pizza and combos and chips to like just healthy eating every day, 3 times a day. My energy level shot through the roof. So those 2 things I think have helped tremendously. Beyond that, I have absolutely nothing of value. I am, no lie, I am an absolute beast. You cannot tell me that I cannot go outside, stick my thumb in the ground, and spin the world in a different axis. You cannot convince me that I can't do that. There is nothing that can't stop me. And because I am a beast and I will devour anything, oftentimes it's a mentality that doesn't lend itself to a healthy balance often. For me, I'm at my core, that's who I am. And so my children, that's why they have a business. If you want to be close to me, because I know who I am in my core, if you want to be close to me, you've got to be in that circle. You've got to be a beast too. And if we're side by side with a similar target, then you will know me unlike anyone else does. If you just want to, be my time and no, that's not going to work for me. You've got to be like spirited, and I have learned that, and that just doesn't change.
Balance, that's funny. There's no such thing as balance. I don't sleep. Not in a bad sense. When I say I don't sleep is that I always open myself up to new opportunities. And I've always I think it just has to be innate that you want to achieve. And you can't give that to someone. They have to want it. But at home at Balance, we have so many things going on. A calendar is useful in terms of so we don't double book things, and I double book things all the time. Because my kids play football, baseball, soccer. They play, they play music. They have lessons. So we try to have a weekly meeting. It doesn't always happen. So on Sunday night, we have a weekly meeting, and we have production days where they know on these 3 days we produce. So on these 3 days, don't make plans with your friends. Don't ask me, can we go somewhere, because these 3 days are we going to make candles and make diffusers and make room sprays. Other 3 days then are flexible. But we try to have a consistent schedule for them because they're kids and they need consistency. Because once it goes out of whack, the whole household goes out of whack. In terms of marriage and balance, because I'm very focused, and my husband knew that when he met me. It doesn't really affect my marriage in a negative way because that's just who I always am. Like my husband, he calls me a night owl because I go to bed probably like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I wake up about 7 o'clock, and I've been that way for years. I mean, even with newborn, it doesn't matter. I've been that way for years because that's just how my brain operates. The kids are in the room, but I would say for balance, me and my husband are very active. I keep him very happy. So I'm just being honest because that's what works for us to keep my household on even keel. And as long as it's on even keel, everything works. And then for my kids, I try to be available. I know when I'm not available for my kids because they'll say, "Mommy, you're working too much." And they'll just tell me because I say, "Tell me what your needs are." So if they feel like I'm working too much, I actually stop what I'm doing, and we take time. We spend time. We have our days together. We have solo days with mom, solo days with dad, and I really think it's just there's no such thing as balance. It's just that you want it, and if you want it, you'll work it out with your partners, with your boyfriends, with your girlfriends, with your family members, with whoever. And I'm looking at a text. I have a 19-year-old son who lives in California, and he asked me what time I was born in the morning because he's all into like moon signs, all that stuff, right? And so he asked me what time I was born in the morning. I was like, I don't know. Yes, I do. It's 1:45 a.m. And I said, that stuff doesn't mean anything to me. I'm just me and I keep moving forward. He said, like, no, because you're a Gemini sun, but you've always been head on and focused. Because that's just who I am. And I think that I almost feel like you. I feel like you can't stop me. I can't even, it's like you can't.
Word that you have, because like you said beast, to me it's savage. Do you guys have a word that like kind of describes your mood? To me it's like, I'm just savage.
Relentless, unstoppable, phenomenal. I don't know how else to describe it, but other people, like people when you meet them because you connect with them and you network with them. And I'm not a natural networker, I'm just a talker. I like to develop relationships, but you're attracted to those people who are attracted to your sunlight. So it's like, you can't help but attract beasts because you're a beast. And we laugh because we do a lot of events together. And sometimes our candles do better, sometimes his soap does better. And we we have like a little competition. And we're like, you said one more bar of soap coming over there,
You taking all my customers.
Yes, exactly. So, but because...
You don't buy soap, they're all on your candles.
But I think that
really balance is what you make it, what works for your family. And almost like a marriage. Whatever works in your marriage works in your marriage. It might not work in anybody else's marriage or relationship, but whatever works for you in terms of balance is what works for you.
I will also say, to piggyback up on what everybody said, is that entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. It's not. I mean, you don't want to talk about my day. It's been a long day. It's been a long few years. It was like one day that just kept going. But but the reality is, it's so rewarding. It's so challenging, but it's so rewarding. And so I think that it's made for certain type of people, and you can be exhausted by it, but you can also be reinvigorated by it. But I will say that some level of balance is important. The first year, like when you first leap, you all in. And because part of it's a little bit of fear, because you're thinking, okay, I have to make sure I have enough money to eat. I don't want to fall flat. I don't have nobody to fall back on. And so I have to hustle. I have to grind. And that's true. But after a while, you realize that it's not sustainable. And so what I had to do, I use my calendar for everything. And so the first thing I did to try to create some balance is that I had to set boundaries, especially with my clients. Like, you want to make sure that you make your clients happy. You want to be responsive. But the reality is, 3:00 in the morning text or whatever, no, we're not responding. And so I actually, part of some of my agency, how we do business is because I had to set boundaries around, how I work with my clients. Like, it's funny, when you're an employee, you look forward to the holidays. Like, it's, Memorial Day, I'm gonna take this day off. There's no day off when you're an employee, when you have your own business. So when I started hiring people start asking me, like, what are our holidays? I'm like, holidays? We don't have holidays. And so now I had to we established holidays. So now all the U.S. holidays were off. And so now we're communicating that to our clients, and they know not to bother us on those times. But you have to set boundaries, like set hours when you're going to respond to emails. I'm not really good with emails. I respond a lot, but I'm trying to cut down while I'm only doing it between this time frame and that time frame. And the other thing that I've done to really try to establish some level of balance is I book everything on my calendar. I book, like when I go to the gym, it's on my calendar. I go to the gym every morning. So my assistant, she manages my calendar, and she knows, okay, we have a meeting. Can we move your gym time? No. My gym time stays. We got to move around it. Or, I need to have, like if I need a breather or a breather day, I'm blocking off my whole calendar. Don't schedule any calls. Don't schedule any meetings. And so you have to use, because if you don't prioritize balance won't come. You have to prioritize balance. So it looks like we have one more question from the little one in the front. She walked all the way in the front. So I'm going to have her ask this question. What's your question?
About Honey Bunny, we make everything, but Daddy's always a bad mother. And every time we go to bed, he, Naya snores all the time.
Tell all the business. Real quick, one more. Real quick.
So I feel like the person.
I'm gonna let you think about your question for a minute. One last question. What's the last question?
Well, I have a comment and a question. So it's pretty much for Selena and Andre, right? Okay. So first of all, Andre, your deodorant is the bomb. It really is. Nice. I buy a lot of natural products, and yours is by far the best. Nice. And I also have your candles. So my question for you two is, because my business idea has to do with retail and it has to do with a natural product. My plan is to make the product, get it to a point where I will outsource it to somebody else to manufacture. So I'm just curious, because you're doing it out of your house, which is my plan. And you do retail, you've got a brick and mortar. When do you get to the point where you start like selling to Whole Foods? how did you know that that was time? Or like, did Whole Foods tell you like you have to be at this certain level before we'll take, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, so it is, one, thank you for the compliment. I think it speaks volume to our initial focus, laser-like focus on just quality of product, terrible at marketing, but if we just get the product good, then we'll have testimonies like that, so thank you. I think for me, we have constantly revisited the options of outsourcing, and we haven't reached a decision though where we have to make that decision yet, but I have been one who has been antagonistic to the notion because I've always been like, I want to have to hire, and I want to hire people within my community. People have been like, yo, I've got these contacts and we can do this in this country and that country and we can bring down your costs. And I'm like, I want to incite so much demand that I've got to hire more people, but I want to hire people from the neighborhood. And so that is currently where we are. With Whole Foods in particular, they have various stipulations, and we had to meet those things, but we've just done it in-house still, hiring people when we need to, particularly around the holidays. But we haven't had to, and if I still am of this mindset, we never will.
In terms of retail, that wasn't the goal at first. The goal was just for them to really make money on the side. It wasn't the goal. But what ended up happening was we were invited to a pop-up at West Elm. And at first I designed the labels. And it was just like some like little rinky-dink labels. And the manager at the time said, you know what, the labels are okay, but you know, you really want your stuff to look retail ready. So we hired a graphic designer, and she's been with us from day one. We had a graphic designer to make the labels look retail ready. And regardless of what people think, if your stuff looks like it looks good, people will put it in a store. You know, our candles are actually good, but you all purchased pretty things that were horrible products. So the first thing is that they look retail ready. And then the back end is really like just developing a relationship and with either the buyer or whoever has the connections to the buyer. But a lot of our stuff just really happened organically. I didn't really seek a lot of stuff. People really came to us. Like they found the candles in Shop Made in DC, and they wanted to carry them in their store. Or they saw them, like right now they're in Ace Hardware. They saw them at Ace Hardware, now they want to carry them in their store. A lot of times we've been fortunate to get a lot of press. So people see them like in a magazine or on TV or on Facebook or something, like some story, and people have asked for them to be in the store. And we also do things like Fair and Tundra, where you go on there and then people, you know, we get retailers from that also. So it just really kind of happened organically. But once I saw the opportunity, I said, let's go for it. You know, let's just make this something that that we can have and we can invest in other things. In terms of letting other people produce it, I have no problem with that. Zero. Because I have things that I want to do in my life, and it's not, you know, it's not managing kids making candles all the time, you know. So we're actually looking for a co-packer now, and trying to find someone to make them because if we worked outside the home, it might be easier to hire people, because we would like to hire people in the community. We would love to do that, but right now that's not an option. So right now we're looking for just someone to manufacture it, because you really want freedom in what you do. It's really hard to push your business if you're always making, or you're always in your business.
Well, that's it for our conversation. Thank you so much for coming out. Do you all want to leave information on how people can get in contact with you and your websites and your social channels?
Okay, I do have some business cards if you like them. The easiest way to find our socially is fbcandle.com, because people can't spell Fairbrand on show because they usually don't speak French. So fbcandle with no S, fbcandle.com. And we're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, which we really never do, but really like Instagram and Facebook is our jam.
Yeah, so the easiest way for me is just newera.ventures. That's the website. You'll also find links to the baby's business. And so if you go there, you'll see all the stuff that we're involved in, and my contact information is just newera.ventures.
The easiest way to find me is CongressHeightsOnTheRise.com or SoutheastLove.com. I'm pretty active on Twitter as the advocate, but you can't shut me up, so I'm always around. All right.
And you can reach out to me on my website, www.tomawares.com. That's TOMAHWARES. And I'm also on Twitter, but basically I don't really use it. You saw my Twitter page. It's like 2 tweets. And on LinkedIn as well. But thank you very much. I think you all will be staying after to network a little bit and answer any more questions you may have. Thank you.
I got the mic. All right, so I'd like to thank everyone for coming out again tonight. Can we give another round of applause for our wonderful moderator and panelists? So as I mentioned, we have publications in the back, so please take some publications with you on your way out. Enjoy, and yes, our panelists are going to be here for a few minutes, so please network.